All right, quick update. We've got our control horns installed on our elevator. As you can see, I use quite a bit of epoxy because the skin on this thing, although it's tough, it's a thin fiberglass. It is thin, and it can be rather flexible and pliable, and it's hollow. So you really needed a lot of epoxy. We normally never do something that messy, but it needed quite a bit of epoxy. Anyway, what we have to do, see the gap right there in the front, that little area? We've got to fill that in. That wasn't supposed to make that cut according to the designer. But I've got some fiberglass sheet, which just arrived today. And that is over here. That's what this stuff is. It looks like carbon fiber, but it's really a fiberglass sheet. And what I'm doing right now is I'm actually cutting. First of all, we'll take a couple pieces and we'll cut them and fill in those gaps on the elevators. But what I'm doing right now is I'm actually cutting new hinges. As I mentioned before, these hinges, although really nicely made because they have that wonderful ball bearing, they're just too short. And they don't grab enough of the trailing edge of either the rudder or the elevators. So I'm actually taking this hinge, which is one of their stock hinges that does come with the airplane, and I'm cutting this, and you can see the difference in length right off the bat when you look at it there. So the hinges are here. We've got 6 of them cut. They're not glued in yet, but they are there. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut some here for the elevator. We're not going to make them as long because there is a spar in the center right here. And if I make them as long as these, which of course is this length right here, they'll wind up hitting the spar in the center. So we're just going to go ahead and make about half the length, and that should work. And that's pretty much it. So that's where we are right now, and more to come. All right, quick update. We have our hinges for our rudder cut. We use the fiberglass board over here. It's not carbon fiber, it's just fiberglass board. It's just a little bit bigger than 2 millimeters. It's probably about 2.1, 2.2. Just a tiny bit. Now, I'm not going to glue the hinges in yet until after the plane is painted, because what happens when they paint the rudder, and any of the paint that winds up here, will make this just a little thicker. And if I were to install the hinges before the painting and then painted the rudder, most likely what would happen is it would cause the rudder to become offset, and I would have a great deal of difficult time inserting the pin here, the hinge pin that holds the pin in place for the hinges, because if it's shifted one way or the other, I wouldn't be able to locate the hole. So that's cut. We use the template. This is the template. This is one of the hinges that came with the plane. We use that as the template, and I'm going to hang on to that in case I need to make any more. But so basically the rudder is done, and now we're going to move on to the elevators. And one of the things that I have to do, I'm hoping you'll be able to see it. Underneath, there it is right there. Let me turn it like this. There we go. Underneath there, the previous owner cut a slot in the elevator, or box, or whatever. His intention was to do a direct drive servo linkage rather than a pull-pull, which is what the current configuration is. But the problem is he also cut the actual spar. So I have to replace the spar. So we're going to work on that next. And then we're going to take the hinges. Once I put the spar in, we're going to take these hinges here, which are all cut for the elevator, and we're going to get those inserted, because the ones that were initially put in, they're just a little too short, and I'm concerned I'm not going to have enough grab, and I don't want to pop me out in flight. So anyway, more to come. All right, you're looking at the bottom of the horizontal stabilizer there, and you can see here, if we peer in there, there is the cut spar. And that was cut when the previous owner cut out this hatch to do a direct drive servo. So we're going to take this wood here, and we're going to put it like this. And it's just a balsa spar. Put one here, and then put another one on this side after this one dries to help reinforce it. And that should just be enough. Should be enough strength to do what we need to do. And then we'll do the other side in the same fashion. And then we'll glue the hatch back in place. I'll put some wood under here and under here as a support brace, and just kind of epoxy it back in. And then we'll fill in some of the some of the holes around here and sand accordingly. So, all right, more to come. Continuing with our update, you can see we've got the wood on the edges. There's just these little pieces over here, just some scrap pieces. All this wood here, just here and here, just to keep the cover from falling in. That's all. Give it something to grab hold of when we glue it back in place. That's really all it is. So that's done. So we'll let the glue dry overnight, and then we'll go ahead and put on the covers. So more to come. All right, continuing with our update, you can see we've got our spar here, and we laminated 2 pieces of balsa. One here initially that runs along the outside portion. Well, the original spar is right in there. You can just barely see it, but it runs along the outside portion of the spar. Then we took another piece, epoxied it to here, and then to the top portion of the horizontal stabilizer. Took some light ply, I think 1/8 inch, and just kind of ran it around here. I tried putting a piece over here, but I can't get it to stick. So anyway, that's good enough, because I'm going to put quite a bit of epoxy, there, and then the door will just fit right there. And then we'll just take the time to, there we go, to glue that in. Glue that in, and then we'll put in some filler around the edges here to help fill that in. All right, so the left is done. I'm going to move on to the right. The right is done, then we'll move on to the left. More to come. All right, continuing with our update here, you can see we've got the right side cover here in place, and the epoxy's drying. And if you look on the left side, remember this plane is upside down, the left side over here, you can see we've got this all taped up. What we did is I went ahead and we put glue on the bottom here and on the wood pieces here, as you can see, and then this will get laid in place. We scrape away the excess with a good old popsicle stick and just very carefully peel up the tape, and you can see it really provides a nice clean set of lines here, no excess epoxy around, and it helps to fill in the gap. Most of those gaps around the edges are filled in with the epoxy, so it works out perfect. So more to come.